Hey guys, what's happening? Aaron here. Well, we come to the next review of this year, and this time I'll be reviewing Mega Man Maverick Hunter X on the Sony PSP. Now, this is actually something new for me. This is my first PSP review game, and overall it was kind of fun because I never owned a PSP during my time as a gamer. I was always kind of in the Nintendo camp for portable systems. But I've actually played a lot of different games on the PSP, and they've all been really, really good. I'm kind of surprised the PSP didn't really do better than I thought it did. It obviously didn't eclipse Nintendo ever, but I believe it had better processing power, or more processing power than I think the DS was its competition at the time. And a lot of other games are really good on it, like the Ratchet and Clank game is really good on it, and the God of War on PSP is really good. I mainly started playing PSP because of the Dracula X Chronicles. I was really excited to play that remaster of Rondo of Blood. So this is also new because Maverick Hunter X is not a standalone game, it's a remake of the original Mega Man X on the Super Nintendo. This is my first sort of remake review, so something new, new style to review, a little bit different, but different is good. So sit back, thanks for watching, and I hope you enjoyed this review of Mega Man Maverick Hunter X. Thanks, take care.
This will be somewhat of a weird review, or let's say a new type of review. Since this is my first review of a remake, this will be a little different than what I'm used to. Let's be honest, if anything, it'll be shorter and more succinct, since the majority of main things I've already talked about in my review of Mega Man X. But you never know. There's always something new to discover. In case you did or haven't watched my Mega Man X review, here's a link. Let's do a quick story recap. Great! Did you get all that? Just kidding. Anyways, an inventor called Dr. Light creates a new type of robot called X that has the ability to make his own decisions. Dr. Light then seals X away for 30 years for diagnostic testing. 100 years pass and X is discovered by Dr. Kane, who, using X's technology, creates others like him, called Reploids. The Reploids turn against humanity because of a virus, and are rebranded as Mavericks. X joins forces with Zero and others to stop the Reploids. Easy peasy. Getting back to the game itself. Now, while the entirety of the game is the same as the original on the SNES, there are quite a few changes once you delve into the game itself. Let's start off with the rather obvious change, the visuals. The whole game has been overhauled into a fresh, new 2.5D graphic update. Was there anything wrong at all with the original graphics? Fuck no! Mega Man X is one of the best looking games on the console. The newer graphics, for the most part, I think work really well. They're great to look at, fit the visual style of the game, and were really well done. It's one of those things that I feel is very tricky to pull off. Many times I've played an enhanced remake or an overhauled older game, and the visual style just doesn't fit. Don't get me wrong, it looks nice, but something just seems off about it. Of course, it doesn't help that the Super Nintendo version has basically been ground into our heads, and it makes sense, because that's what we've been playing for 20 years. So sometimes the transition to a newer graphical style can be a bit jarring and a little hard to get used to. But it works here. An example of what I just said applies to the PSP remake of Castlevania Rondo of Blood. It's not a bad game by any measure, but I've always found the visual style of the remake to be too jarring to be fully immersive. Like it's too clean for a Castlevania game? I don't know. Maybe I'm just seeing things. X looks great, as do the environments, the enemies. backgrounds, and effects. Sometimes with these remakes, the developers also tend to overcomplicate the backgrounds by adding like 18,000 layers of stuff in the background in order to make it look better. Maverick Hunter X doesn't do this, and I'm glad they didn't. The backgrounds work, look great, but aren't overly complicated. Along those lines, I feel like Capcom either didn't improve the controls to account for the newer graphics, or didn't change them at all, because the controls, to me, don't really seem to mesh that well with the new graphics. They seem to fall short. Just a little bit, don't freak out! But comparing the fluidity of the control in the original game to this one seems just a little bit sloppy. The next thing they added is cutscenes! Yep, now there are intro cutscenes that explain the story and the setup, and ones at the end of the game as well, and deal with the epilogue. Lastly, some simple visual changes are that your health and weapon gauges have been redesigned to be smaller overall, about 1/3 the size they were in the original. And at this point, I do not like them. It just doesn't work. I'm so used to having these, like, skyscraper-sized health bars, if you get all the energy tanks, that is, and an equally large weapon gauge. Now we have this tiny little shit bar sitting up there, even when you get all the energy tanks this time around. The total health meter just doesn't really get any bigger. It about doubles in size, but it's still tiny as fuck! Why does this matter? Because it at least made me more paranoid about taking damage, because the gauge is so small. Normally you could keep an eye on your health in your peripheral vision, where with the smaller gauge you can't do that. So I found myself constantly glancing at my health bar, even when taking damage from a single enemy, because when you change the visual style of a health bar, you change how much of it is depleted through different kinds of damage. Yes, I understand it's a portable screen, so things kind of have to be scaled down, but still, I don't think I'm completely off base on that one. Am I? Also, instead of cycling through all your available weapons using the L and R buttons, the entire weapon selection is on screen all the time, and you just move the selection cursor back and forth to select what you want. Not a negative thing, just mentioning it. Shifting on to the audio side of things. Now this part is probably, admittedly, going to have a few more negatives for me. And in my book. These don't have to be a part of your book, these are just mine. For the most part, just like the visuals, the audio has fared well during the upgrade process. The music sounds good, but I feel it's a little too techno-y for me. Obviously, real instruments were used in recording some of the music, but it's just been made to be more electronic. The original game, while using completely digital sounds, still sounds better in my opinion because it wasn't overly synthesized. It was keyboards made to sound like electric guitars, whereas in the new game, the keyboards just sound like keyboards. The newer score lacks the oomph that the original also was well known for. And I think, too, that they speeded up a lot of the music for no other apparent reason other than to sound like faster-paced techno-electronica. Logically, it serves no actual purpose to speed a piece of music up, if the gameplay itself isn't speeded up as well. The sounds do sound improved, things like explosions and weapons firing and energy bursts, stuff like that. And they do stay true to how the original sounded. Now, whose fucking bright idea was it to have X yell the name of the weapon he's using each time he fucking fires it? What the fuck? It's so fucking annoying. There's other things too along those lines. Like, why do the Maverick bosses have voices now? it totally doesn't fit.
And surrender peacefully.
I don't think so, X. Oppose me and I'll crush you.
Sounds like you've gone Maverick. Your time has come, Spark Mandrill.
I'm not the smartest guy around, X, but I have a feeling that Sigma is right.
Yes, I understand that because there's spoken dialogue between X and the Mavericks that, you know, it's kind of required. But it was so much better in the original. You just entered the boss room and the fight began. No dialogue, no shitty voices, nothing. Just fighting. I know they were kind of trying to flesh out the Mavericks more, but it just doesn't do anything to better the game overall. That's one of the things I majorly don't like about Maverick Hunter X. There's too much dialogue! It just bogs the game down and brings the progression to a crawl and just isn't needed at all. Lastly, one of the main things that Capcom changed in this version of the game is the location of the upgrades for X. They are completely not where you're used to getting them. They're mostly still located in the same stages, but just not where they're supposed to be. The dash upgrade is no longer mandatory just by playing through Chill Penguin stage, but is hidden in Flame Mammoth stage. Not a huge thing, but just thought I'd mention it. The rematches against the Mavericks at the end of the game have also been altered, but again, not something to get crazy over. Overall, Mega Man Maverick Hunter X is a pretty damn good remake, despite the shortcomings I've mentioned here. The visuals do look nice, the game is still pretty damn fun to play, and is still enjoyable. Does it eclipse the original? Are you fucking kidding me? No, it doesn't. But for what it is, it's still a good game, especially for newer gamers, or people that never played the original on the Super Nintendo. Unfortunately, if that's the case for you, you're totally missing out. The original is a classic. Thanks for watching, thanks for subscribing, go check it out.